This Old House Radio Hour is supported by the Home Depot. Whether you're tackling a kitchen upgrade, organizing your garage, or building out that back deck, it's important to keep your projects on track. Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes it easy to keep things moving in the right direction. If you're just starting out or you're stuck in the middle, the Home Depot has same-day and next-day delivery, so you can get what you need fast. Maybe you need a tool, more materials, some extra paint and supplies, or a battery to power your way through that project. Whatever you're working on, get fast, free delivery from the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability. From LAist and APM, American Public Media, it's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm your host, Jen Largis. On today's show, indoor air quality can have a profound effect on your health. We talk with Kenneth Mendez, president of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, about practical ways to clear the air inside your home.
Keep the outdoor allergens from coming indoors, so keep your windows closed. Make sure that you leave your shoes if you're walking your dog, and make sure that they don't bring the allergens indoors.
The Splendid Table, host Francis Lamb, remembers the New Jersey home where he came of age.
It looked like the birthday party that I saw other kids having. And then when the food came out, it was a big tray of fried rice that my grandmother had made.
Cheap Old Houses is back, featuring a charming summer cottage in Lancaster, Ohio, once part of a historic Methodist camp. All this plus we're answering your home improvement questions at 877-864-7460. Coming up right after the news. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Dust mites, mold, pet dander, indoor allergens can quietly build up and seriously impact your health. Kenneth Mendez, president and CEO of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, joins us to explain what's in the air we breathe at home and how to reduce exposure with a few smart science-backed changes. Kenny, welcome to This Old House Radio Hour.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So walk us through, what are some of the best practices that someone could take to keep allergens out of their home?
There's a long list of things to do. One of the things we hear all the time is that my allergies are getting a lot worse, or I've never had allergies before. And part of that is because of climate change, and the allergy seasons are getting longer and more intense. First off, you want to make sure that you keep the outdoor allergens from coming indoors. So keep your windows closed. If you have to go outside during high allergy release seasons, make sure that you leave your shoes, your coat, if you're walking your dog, or your pet, wash your dog off and make sure that they don't bring the allergens indoors. So that's the first thing. And then there are indoor allergens as well. And I think things like dust mites, cockroaches, mold, rodents, those are all things that can be triggers that people are allergic to with their allergies. So you have to make sure that you go through each room and try and prevent those things or get rid of those things from your indoor air environment.
And thinking of the whole house, now that it's warm outside and our windows are closed, what are some things that we need to do inside our home to sort of limit as many allergens as possible that maybe aren't coming in from the outdoors, but already begin indoors?
You want to reduce the amount of mold in your house. So that has to do with humidity, but also making sure that you're looking under kitchen cabinets, in the bathroom, when you're showering, for example. Open a window a little bit so some of that steam, or turn on the fan so the steam goes out, because when that moisture sets inside your bathroom, then that can create mold on the inside of your curtain, or if you've got a shower curtain, or even in your cabinet. So that's one. Also, having an air purifier indoors. We have certified asthma and allergy friendly filters, and having those filters in your home will reduce the allergens that are just generally floating in the air. You could also change your screens on your HVAC system. If you've got centralized air conditioning, we've got certified asthma and allergy friendly HVAC filters. Those should be changed on a more regular basis than you normally would, every couple months or so, in order to make sure that the filter is working for you too. So those are just a few examples that work when you think about the whole house. To your question, would be what I'd recommend.
And if I were to think about adding an air purifier to my home, are you wanting it in a main part of the house? Are you wanting it where you sleep? Is there a specific place you recommend if, say, I could only buy one to start?
Yeah, if you can only buy one to start, I would definitely recommend putting it in your bedroom, because that's where you spend most of your time. Hopefully, you're getting a good 8 hours of sleep each night. And so I'd recommend putting it in your bedroom. The other thing is if you have a pet, we really don't recommend having your pet sleep in your bed with you or even in your bedroom.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but I'm sure it's helpful. So thinking about going through room by room, what specifically can we do, let's say, in the kitchen that could help?
Yeah, so in the kitchen, we start with mold. So look in your cabinets to make sure that under the sink and in your cabinets, there's no mold growing there from moisture in your home. The other thing you have to do is make sure that you're cleaning your kitchen. So for example, cockroaches can be an allergy trigger in their droppings, or even rodents for that matter. So those are a couple things that you could do in your kitchen. The other thing we recommend, and it's really for people who have asthma and respiratory issues, whenever you're cooking and there's smoke in there, you always want to turn on the fan, or your exhaust fan over your stove, just to make sure that that air gets pulled out and sent to the outdoors. So it's not indoors and then creating some sort of irritant for your lungs.
Let's move to the living room. What can we do in the living room?
For the living room, replacing carpet, because carpeting can trap and keep some of those allergens that are in the house. So for people with asthma, we generally recommend not having carpeting there. But the other thing you could do is you could have a certified asthma and allergy friendly vacuum cleaner, HEPA vacuum cleaner, to vacuum your rug if that's the case. And if that's the case, if you have rugs, vacuum at least once a week. And again, cleaning surfaces regularly to make sure there's not dust buildup there, because what you see in dust is that particulate matter. The allergens can be in there. That's how fine and small they are. Keeping up a regular cleaning habit would be important. And then again, the same thing with mold, making sure that there's no mold in your flooring or your living area.
You always hear wash things and keep them clean, but is there a special process for making sure that you're getting the majority of the allergens or the any buildup out of things like curtains?
Yeah, one of the things we recommend with your bedding, or whether you're talking about your drapes, is washing them at a temperature of about 130 degrees. That way you're just extra careful of making sure that you get rid of those allergens. So washing your fabrics and washing your bedding at a very high temperature, which is 130 degrees, would be really important.
And you mentioned the bedroom. What else do we need to think of there?
Yeah, so the main culprit in the bedroom for indoor allergens will be dust mites, which feed off of the skin that you're shedding, and they're in your bed. You can't see them. They're tiny. They're microscopic. You could keep the dust mites away from it if you put plastic on your pillows, but that's not going to be comfortable to sleep on, or your sheets. So putting a casing on your mattress, putting an initial casing on your pillow would be really helpful first to create that barrier for the dust mites. But then washing your bed sheets at 130 degrees would be really important on a regular basis, at least weekly. And then again, keeping any furry pets out of your bedroom is really important.
So we like to end each episode with something called a simple fix, where an expert shares a practical tip with our listeners that make their lives a little bit easier. Do you have a simple fix for combating allergens?
Yeah, I know we're talking about indoor allergens here, but I do say that if you watch the outdoor air quality, because that impacts your indoor air, and you spend 90% of your time indoors, but you can bring some of those allergens indoors. So I think, and then again, seeing a specialist, seeing your doctor to understand what your triggers are is really important. And then you can, while it takes some effort, that's a simple tip where you can better manage your allergens, know what you're allergic to, and then you can go from there in terms of all the tips that we just talked about.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kenny. We really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
That was Kenneth Mendez, CEO and President of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America. To learn more about them and to view their resources, visit their website, aafa.org. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Right now, we're tackling your DIY and home improvement questions. Call us now at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460, and we'll match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, Jen. My name is Charlie Recco calling from Thompson, Connecticut.
Hi, Charlie. What's your question today?
I've got a fiberglass bathtub shower built-in unit combination, all one piece.
Mm-hmm.
I want to change the color. It's gold right now, the old style gold from years ago. I want to change it to white. Is there any way to do this?
Well, we've got Zach Detmore, general contractor for the show, and Mauro Henrique, the painter for the show, here to help. Mauro, what do you think? Is this possible?
Well, honestly, I never done a fiberglass shower. Zach, do you have any good tip on that?
I do have a lot of experience with this, because being a general contractor, we break these tubs all the time when we're tiling them, when we're dropping lumber. So I have had to repair a fiberglass tub once or twice. And I've talked to dozens of companies, and typically they'll give you a pretty good warranty on the walls, but on the floor where you're walking, where it gets a lot of traffic and needs a lot of cleaning, typically they won't warranty that for more than a year or so. And once that coating, which typically has to be applied by a professional, starts to peel, there's not a lot you can do except maybe repaint it once. But at that point, you're going to have to rip it out.
The unit is in great shape. I mean, there's no cracks, no chips. I had a gentleman come over and estimate about $25,000 just to take it out. So that is the reason.
Did you say $25,000?
$25,000?
Yes.
Zach.
Yeah.
Just to remove it.
I'm on my way to Connecticut. I'm getting in my car right now.
Yeah,
Zach
thanks a lot.
for 24.
I'll help you out with that, Zach.
Yeah. Well, this is a 3-beer job for me. This is interesting. So that's unfortunate. I hate to hear it. The problem is not the durability of the unit you have. The problem is the durability of the coating that it gets applied over it. So that will be the weakest link because it's applied to a smooth surface and it gets, somewhat frequent use. But man, that's a lot of money to rip that out. I think there's only one option. You need to make the rest of the bathroom gold again so this looks like it belongs there.
Yeah, get some hand towels to match, really pull it all together.
Yeah, that's
Go back to the 1970s.
Hey, that's back in style now.
You're going to save a lot of money, too.
You might be fashion forward and you don't even know it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I all I can say is it sounds like you have a bunch of bad options, but you want to pick something that doesn't hurt you in the future. So if you decide to go with the changing color option, make sure you pick someone who's going to stand behind that work, offer you some sort of warranty, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that coating will fail. And if it does, you want someone who's going to be able to come out and at least repair it before you start getting like a lot of peeling. And you might be okay with that.
I understand. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I mean, you guys have been very helpful, and good luck to me, I guess.
Good luck to you, I guess. I think.
You.
Lean into the gold.
Pretty much it, right?
Take care. I wish I could see it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
I'm going to start saying that. Good luck to me.
Good luck to me.
After the break, our experts answer more of your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Coming up on This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. Stay tuned. This Old House Radio Hour is supported by the Home Depot. Whether you're tackling a kitchen upgrade, organizing your garage, or building out that back deck, it's important to keep your projects on track. Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes it easy to keep things moving in the right direction. If you're just starting out or you're stuck in the middle, the Home Depot has same-day and next-day delivery, so you can get what you need fast. Maybe you need a tool, more materials, some extra paint and supplies, or a battery to power your way through that project. Whatever you're working on, get fast, free delivery from the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Before we get back to your calls, we are opening up the phone lines and playing House Rules. This is the game where we test your knowledge of common DIY and home improvement procedures. No lifelines, no second chances, just you, your instincts, and a shot at glory. Hello, you're on House Rules.
Yeah, this is Kat Peak, and I'm from Winona, New Jersey. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you, Kat. How handy are you around the house?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a 2. My dad is probably a 0, so I get it. I come by it honest.
I come by it honest. I like it. All right, Kat, here's how it works. I'm going to ask you 2 multiple choice home improvement questions. If you miss the first one, the game is over. If you get it right, you move on to question 2. Answer both correctly, and you'll win the ultimate prize, a custom voicemail recording from This Old House's very own Richard Trethewey. Does that sound good?
Nice.
All right, Kat, let's play House Rules. Here's your first question.
Okay.
What type of saw is best for making precise crosscuts and cutting crown molding? Is it A, a circular saw, B, jigsaw, or C, miter saw?
C, miter saw.
Ooh, all right, Kathleen, your answer was C, miter saw. To get the right answer, we asked Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, and this was his answer.
The correct answer is C, a miter saw. Not only will it make effective and accurate crosscuts, but it's actually a square and a miter box all in one. All you need is a little pencil mark.
Kat, that means you were right.
Yay! One down, one down.
One down, one to go. Let's move on to question 2.
Okay.
All right. When wiring a new wall receptacle, the silver screw is for A, live wire, B, ground wire, or C, neutral wire. All right, this is kind of a tricky one. Kat, what's your answer?
I'm going to go with B, ground wire.
All right,
I'm
you
not
chose
sure.
B. Cross your fingers. You chose B, ground wire. To get the right answer, we asked Heath Eastman, an electrician for the show.
Hi, Jen. The correct answer is the silver screw is for the neutral wire or the white wire. This helps keep the receptacles polarized when you have a polarized connector.
Oh, Kathleen, I'm so sorry. The correct answer was C, neutral wire.
It's all good. Thank you so much. I had a good time.
All right, you give producer Matt your address and t-shirt size, and we'll send you some This Old House merch. Thanks for playing House Rules.
Awesome. Thank you.
Want to be on House Rules? It's easy. Our hotline is at 877-864-7460. Just leave us a message saying, I want to be on House Rules, along with your name, where you're from, your phone number, and a good time to call you back. Or send us an email at questions@thisoldhouse.com with that same info. We'd love to have you on the show. Right now, we're tackling your DIY and home improvement questions. Give us a call at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460 so we can match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hello, this is Rima Masood. I'm calling from Framingham, Massachusetts.
Hi, Rima. What's your question today?
I live in a split-level house, and typically the lower level is usually colder than the upper level. I have central AC, and I have forced air gas heat. The other problem is I have like 2 bedrooms over a garage that tend to be much colder in the winter and much hotter in the summer. It's a one zone, so I'm hoping to get some ideas about how I can, fix it so it's not so uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Well, luckily we have Ross Trethewey, the building engineer for This Old House, and Zach Detmore, a building contractor for the show, both on the line here to help.
Well, Rima, thanks for your call. We get that question a lot. Split level houses are very, very difficult to condition, especially with a single zone and a single thermostat, right? Because we're fighting the laws of physics, right? Hot air likes to rise. And so, any warm air in that home is rising to the top, cold air is falling. So those, kind of buoyancy differences is what's driving that. And so it makes it really complicated and challenging to get it to be perfectly comfortable to you when you have a single thermostat. Is the thermostat upstairs or downstairs?
It's upstairs, yeah.
Yep. And the thermostat's the brain of the system, and that's going to be driving your system on or off. And so the location of that is the most critical item there. And so you're going to be keeping your upstairs comfortable, but of course the downstairs is going to suffer.
Yeah.
Zach, have you seen this before?
I've seen this very common, especially the complaint of being over the garage. I've worked in a couple of these houses, and they're being cooled sort of from the bottom, from the sides, from the front and the back. And it's I think you can get some improvements by sort of trying to balance the system a bit, but it's always, if you're in that sort of heating and cooling climate, it's never going to be perfect without some adjustment season to season.
When you say balancing, are you meaning like close the vents upstairs so that you drive more heat downstairs?
Yeah, that would be the wintertime scenario.
Okay.
You know what? I've tried that and it just does not work.
That's a very common response we get as well when we're trying to balance systems. And also the other thing that people don't realize is that when you close dampers, it actually can have a negative effect on the air handler.
Exactly.
Yep. So we talk about duct static pressure. That's the pressure of the air in the duct system, and it's analogous to blood pressure, right? So if you close all your vents, then you're inherently driving the pressure of the system up because you're giving it resistance in terms of the airflow pathways that it can go down. So if you close half your vents and leave the other half open, and effectively you're putting more strain on the blower motor, and you're reducing the amount of airflow that it's moving. And so the other things that you could do is duct modifications and zoning. The challenge with that is that you got to get access to the ductwork, and you have to add zone dampers. So zone dampers are like, think of them like gates that open and close to direct the air to the area of most need.
Okay.
This is the part where I turn on all the ceiling fans.
Yeah, right. I don't even have those.
Ceiling fans were a game changer for us for driving the heat back down once it got hot upstairs. Especially we have a open entryway where all the heat just runs right upstairs. I feel you on this one.
Yeah.
The only other thing to potentially think about is the slower we can stop the exit of the air through your ceiling, the less cold air we're introducing into the basement there. If it all looks pretty good up there, then I would lean towards hiring an HVAC person to address this issue. If it looks like the attic has never been touched and it's sort of as it was, I'm assuming this house was built between 1940 and 1970.
Yeah, 61 actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, if it doesn't look like it's been improved a lot, then you can get some more comfort by minimizing the new air that's being introduced. But that's something you would have to sort of address based on the situation you have.
Yeah, it's actually not very drafty. I know they've got blown-in insulation.
There's a difference between insulating and air sealing, right? So Rima, you're talking about the fluffy stuff. That's the insulation. But what we're talking about is air sealing. So this is like, caulking or spray foam or those kind of things that actually can act as an air barrier. So we're reducing the stack effect, meaning the air moving into the house and out of the house. And so effectively that's going to cut down on that hot air rising. The other thing we've done in some projects, just to throw in, is that we've decoupled upstairs from downstairs with a separate HVAC system. So sometimes we're putting in mini splits or a ducted system that tackles the upstairs differently than the lower level. So you leave the lower level unit in effectively for the lower level. And you basically create a separate HVAC system for the upstairs. So hopefully that helps.
I see.
Yeah, great advice, Ross. And
okay, great. Thank you.
Linda, hopefully that was helpful.
Great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Very helpful.
All right. Thank you so much for the call. Right now, our experts are taking your questions. Give us a call at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. And we'll get your question answered. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, this is Erin Rose Somm, and I am from Oak Park, Illinois, just outside of the city of Chicago.
Erin, thanks for calling. What's your question today?
So I'm going to actually also add in my husband, who is who's the main question guy for our old house. So he's going to ask the question.
Okay.
So the question that we have is, we have a 1914 prairie style home where we are working through to try to fix some of the original white oak wood floors.
I've said it a few times. the floors squeak so bad that you can't even sneak a cookie in this house.
Even the cookie makes the floor squeak.
Yes.
Yes.
We've got our general contractor from the show, Zach Detmore, here on the line. He's going to help us out.
Hey, Nick and Aaron, let's hear what the story is with this floor assembly.
Great. They decided to put the floor on sleepers. So there are large sections of underneath where it's running opposing to the deck and creating voids where it's unsupported, which is what's creating our issue.
Interesting. So let me state back to you what I'm understanding the floor assembly is, and then you can tell me if I'm right or not. So you have a floor joist, we'll call it a 2x10, and then you have some sort of tongue and groove flooring, like a 3/4 inch subfloor, and then you have some sort of 1x material that's running perpendicular to the floor joist, and then you have a floor on top of that?
Yep.
Why in the world did they do that?
No idea.
How wide are the oak boards that are on the top, and how long are they in general?
They're standard 2 1/4 wide oak.
Okay, and are the seams on the sleepers?
They are not, which is where we are having the bigger issue. There's nothing holding them up other than just a wish and a prayer.
Got it. So does that make sense to you, Jen, what we're talking about?
So my understanding of sleepers is that it's usually something that you use when you're trying to install a wood floor system over concrete or something uneven. But this is not this is not that application.
Nope.
Yeah. Normally you would install the floor on top of a subfloor, and wherever you have two boards meeting together, the subfloor is supporting it. So you basically have 1.5 inches of total wood, right, on top of your joist, if it's 3/4 of subfloor and 3/4 of flooring. But what they have is sort of the sleepers, which is just a small strip of wood so that it's not supported and the floor's moving all over the place. My hunch is they were trying to get the height of the floor up for some reason. So my fear is anything that we inject in that is sort of expanding, like a polyurethane, is not going to give you the compressive strength you want. And any sort of epoxy that we pour is going to flow out. If the board is 2 inches wide, we're going to drill like a 1.5 inch hole in it. And through that 1.5 inch hole, we'll put a 1 1/4 inch round piece of wood. And then we'll put a ton of polyurethane construction adhesive that not only expands, but it gets incredibly hard and it sticks to anything. So you would cut the hole, poke in the tip of your caulking gun with the construction adhesive, inject as much of it as you can, and then drop in this 1.25 inch round plug of wood that we're going to slide in. Then that construction adhesive is going to grow. And then at the same time, you'll have a oak plug that is tapered. You can get a plug cutter to make this. That's 1.5 inch tapered oak plug. Bang that in, align the grain, and then you'll have a quirky floor with these plugs in it, but you're going to salvage this whole floor by doing this, and you're going to solve your issues. So it's drill, inject, put the shim in, plug the hole, move on. And that all happens in once. And you can use the same construction adhesive to hold that plug in place because it's a similar brown color to the wood. It'll be close enough once it's sanded.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think that's what I would do. This is a head scratcher. You really, really stumped me on this one.
Yeah, that's why we're calling you guys.
Good luck with it.
Right now, we've got our experts on the line waiting to answer your questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460, and we'll match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, Jen. This is Andy McCurdy from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hi, Andy. What's your question today?
My wife came to me a couple of weeks ago and said we had staining on the one wall in the an internal wall in the bedroom. And I went to check it out and noticed that there were faint stains, but they were the distance apart was the same as the studs. And so I'm wondering what's going on. I'm wondering if that's something I can simply paint over, if there's a moisture issue that I need to address.
That is curious.
That's my question.
We've got Charlie Silva, a builder for the show, and Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, on the line. Zach, what do you want to investigate about this?
Andy, I want to know, do you have drywall or plaster walls?
It is drywall.
Got it. So you have 1.5 inch wide, 16 on center stains by the bottom of this wall.
They're actually near the top.
They're near the top. Okay. And what's the story with what's happening above this? A window, a roof, anything that would be prone to leaking?
There might be some air conditioning ducts that run across there, although they are HVAC.
Did the stain occur during the cooling season where you'd have condensate coming from the air conditioning unit?
I don't know. I mean, my wife noticed it a couple of weeks ago. And I had to look closely in order to see it.
You really threw your wife under the bus. You were like, the first thing you said with this question was, my wife. Like, you're just casting doubt right off the bat. That's what I got, Charlie. What did you hear?
I think he's very smart, actually.
I was going to say, when in doubt.
Right. Is the staining equal left to right, corner to corner of the house? Sounds to me like it's not. It's probably just where the bathroom is. Am I right?
It's just that wall. It's just that one internal wall.
No, but the width of the bathroom. So if your bathroom's 10 feet wide, does that line up with the staining left to right? You don't have to get a tape measure. You just guess.
It only appears to be on the right 3/4 side of the wall.
And let me guess, the shower's there? Is the shower or bathtub there?
There's a bathtub right on the other side, but it's seldom used.
Right, but
but the shower is backing away from that wall.
Okay. Is it happened in the last year, or is it just over time? I would probably try, you know what you can do for the heck of it? Get a moisture meter, right? You can buy one of those. You did do it?
Did that.
And?
Yeah. And it appears totally dry.
Okay.
Both the wall and where the staining is.
I would paint the wall. I would do a nice primer, maybe a stain killer on it, and then paint the wall. You know what? Those are great husband and wife projects together.
Okay. Even though I've thrown her under the bus.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Don't let her watch this call or listen to this call.
There's always time to redeem yourself.
I think you're right. Do this bonding activity before this episode goes live. And
that's right.
And the new peace and kindness that you will share will get you through this recording when she hears it.
Right. Maybe you want to say something nice about her right now. Maybe we can keep that in there.
Good idea.
All right. Well, good luck to you.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your help.
Take care, Andy.
If your house has a weird problem that you can't solve, give us a call and our experts can weigh in. Our number is 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. After the break, 2 dream homes for fixer-upper fans, a summer cottage located in a former Methodist camp in Ohio, and a corner lot in Galena, Kansas. That's coming up on This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Coming up, 2 dream homes for fixer-upper fans, a summer cottage located in a former Methodist camp in Ohio, and a corner lot in Galena, Kansas. But first, we travel back in time to suburban New Jersey in the mid-90s, to the modest family home of Francis Lamb. Long before he became the host of The Splendid Table and a James Beard Award-winning writer, Lamb was a kid navigating 2 worlds: American suburbia outside, and a Chinese household inside.
Hey, it's Francis Lamb. I'm the host of the Splendid Table and editor-in-chief at Clarkson Potter, and this is my old house. We moved into this home probably when I was about 3 or maybe 4. But if I think back to the years I spent there, some of the first things I remember visually were these 2 tall trees that were on either side of the door. In my mind, the house was impressive. It was almost stately. It was a dark, rich brown. And, now I look at it on Google Maps and it looks like a pretty cookie cutter suburban 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage. There's a little bit of a Leave It to Beaver kind of aspect to it, but I remember it being this place. And I was probably too young to remember it being a house that my parents felt like showed them that they'd made it. But I'm sure that's what it felt like to them. The first home they lived in when they moved to America, or at least when we were a family, they lived with my uncle. They lived with them for a while, and my aunt and uncle eventually made enough money and went out and got their own place. And so my parents sort of inherited it from them. So this was like the first home they had together. And I think emotionally, I remember that feeling. I remember that feeling of the pride that they had in having their own place. When I think of the outside, I think it was huge. When you walk into the house, I remember, I guess you'd call it a den, but we rarely used it. And it was a place where my father had stereo speakers. And I remember his record player being there. And eventually I remember there being a cassette player there. And I remember there being a CD player there. But on the rare occasion, my father would actually spend time doing something just to relax for himself. I remember him sitting there and listening to classical music. He had this massive collection of classical records. He'd rarely listen to them. He'd rarely have time. But I remember that being a part of my childhood, a part of who I thought he was. On the other side of that room was our dining room, which of course we never used because we always ate in the kitchen. And the kitchen, I remember when we first moved in, it was very dark. And I remember when we had a little money to buy new furniture, and I bought this beautiful Formica table that was a nice tan and would sort of light the kitchen up because it was so much lighter in its color. I remember a lot about the backyard. I remember feeling like the backyard was huge, but it was probably, a modest backyard by modern suburban standards. I remember there being a shed back there. But I also really remember the basement. It was a finished basement, and we would play down there, my brothers and I, and when we had friends over. But also in the back room of the basement was a small room that my mother would use for sewing. And that was their profession. They were garment contractors. She had a sewing machine in there, but also I mostly remember that room because when my grandmother would come stay with us, my mother's mother, that's where she would live. That was grandma's bedroom. And grandma was tough. She and my grandfather would live around the world. They'd basically cycle through their children's homes. They would almost never do it together. They would always... So if we got like a grandpa year, we were psyched because grandpa's super sweet. When we got a grandma year, we're like, oh God, now we're in for it. I was very aware from a pretty early age that I was one of the only Chinese kids, Asian kids that I could see. When I was a kid, we'd go out to play. There were no kids that looked like me. But I do remember I was maybe 5 or 6, and we had a birthday party. My parents threw me a birthday party. I was super psyched for it. I had friends over from school and from the neighborhood. I remember we had it in the backyard, and it looked like the birthday party that I saw on TV. It looked like the birthday party that I saw other kids having. And then when the food came out, it was a big tray of fried rice that my grandmother had made. Now, I love my grandmother's fried rice, but I remember all of a sudden feeling really weird. Maybe there should have been a pizza. Maybe there should have been a lasagna. And I don't even remember what the kids' reactions were to it. I actually vaguely remember one of the kids eating and being like, hey, this is good. I just remember feeling it was so different. And that weirdness and that difference was because of who I was. So, maybe it was purely internalized, that feeling of difference and weirdness. So for as long as I can remember, my mother has been very religious. She believes in a form of Taoism, that's sort of like a Buddhist Taoism. But she's always had at least a corner of the home as a sort of worship place. It was an altar. She would have her pot for her incense to go. She would have photos of ancestors, and there would be a Buddha. It was just, oh, that's where mom goes to pray. I think I could always recognize a sort of beauty and a sort of serenity. The fact that she did this just as part of her daily rhythm, just as surely as my mom would wash her face, she would go and pray in the morning and she would go pray at night. It was just part of our rhythm of life and part of watching my mother's rhythm of life. And I think I've always really kind of loved that. At the same time, you know, the incense was an intense scent. But now I think back to that scent. It's so implanted in my brain and it makes me feel warm. I don't particularly ascribe to this religion, but the scent of that incense and the idea of a home with that scent, it feels like a part of my past. It feels like a part of my past that I always want to carry with me. There was this corner in the TV room. There were 2 couches in this room. And this was the couch that only half of it sort of faced the TV because the other half was just kind of crammed into the corner. And I remember so distinctly snuggling up in that corner of the couch. This was the 80s, right? So there was like a half pillar that was, I guess, meant to be sort of a table rectangle that was covered in mirrors. Like if my parents ever did cocaine, that was the thing they should have done cocaine on. But I remember snuggling, like wedging myself between that thing and like the edge of the couch and sitting there and reading my Hardy Boys books. And I loved going there and disappearing. Not because I was escaping, not because I hated this home or this life, but I just remember thinking that tiny corner was the biggest part of the world. Because in that corner, I would go into this Hardy Boys book. I would go into this other world that I was reading. And I'd love to spend an afternoon in that corner again. I definitely don't think I was really able to see the world from my parents' point of view. I definitely didn't understand the level of stress they had, the level of displacement they had. I was born in this country. I was raised in this country. And as much as I often felt like, wow, I'm between 2 places, I don't think I was ever able to, and probably to this day, am not ever truly able to understand what it must be like to have grown up in a place with your family, with your friends, with your language, with your food, with your culture, and leave that place and try to make a new life there. Like that's the story of the immigrant, and that's such profound level of personal sacrifice.
That was Francis Lamb. Check out episodes of The Splendid Table weekly on public radio or wherever you get your podcasts. Right now, we're joined by Ethan and Elizabeth Finkelstein, publishers of Cheap Old Houses, the popular social media account that draws millions of fans eager to discover homes across America for as little as $10. Together, we'll explore whether these hidden gems become a labor of love or a money pit. Ethan and Elizabeth, thanks for joining us on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hey, Jen.
These are some fun properties.
Also joining us to understand the scope of a possible renovation is This Old House general contractor, Zach Detmore.
Hey, Jen. Happy to be critical.
Oh, well, we're happy to have you. Our first listing today is a 1-bed, 1-bath historic cottage. It's located in the heart of Lancaster Campground. This Gothic revival cottage was part of an old Methodist camp and has a cozy interior featuring warm wood finishes, a renovated kitchen, and an updated bathroom. This 1-bed, 1-bath, 616 square foot historic cottage is located at 338 Half 16th Street in Lancaster, Ohio, and can be yours for $79,900. Wow. Ethan and Elizabeth, tell our listeners about this property.
This is such a cutie. So this is part of an original Methodist camp meeting ground built as part of the religious camp meeting movement of the 19th century. So there were over 150 of these built all across the country. This one is an adorable Victorian cottage built in the Carpenter Gothic style. So it has the board and batten on the exterior. And then you go inside and it's so cozy, so original. It just has the sweetest lighting, wood paneling on the walls. And if you are to buy this house, you're buying into kind of a dollhouse life. You have to remember that these houses were built to be part of a meeting community. So you are very close to your neighbors, and that's part of the charm. You're all in this together, and you're all preserving these communities together. This community, like many of these Methodist camp meeting grounds, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So there's a bit of a pride in its preservation. And if you are to restore it, you will be eligible to get tax credits for the work that you do on the house, which is a big perk.
The cool thing about this community is that there seems to be an amphitheater here. There's a pool on the premises. So this is more than buying into just the home specifically. It's buying into the community and buying into a summer camp or destination for your family. And it's all centered around, a really spiritual and historical vibe.
Since this is a historic cabin, are there any restrictions or limitations to consider if you're trying to renovate this property?
There's no restrictions per se. I think there are restrictions, though, in the community, funny enough, with alcohol and tobacco use versus more restrictions on the house, I think.
Got it.
So you won't be having a beer while you're restoring this one, Ethan. Is that what you're saying?
The cabin isn't trying to really be something that it isn't. It does have wood walls. It looks very cozy. The roof upstairs, you can sort of see through the slats to the metal roof. Zach, are you buying in on the cozy on this?
I'm all in on this. I think the house looks pretty straight. Looks like they took care of the foundation below it, which would be sort of my biggest fear because it's sort of built into a hillside so that the property it's on slopes tremendously, but it looks like they've really taken care of that and updated that, which is probably the most expensive work, which is always, what I'm concerned about when you're buying a house that costs as much as a new pickup truck. My biggest fear with any inexpensive house is that you think you're buying in at a certain price point and then it just escalates to something that is outside your means to repair. And I don't think this is one of those houses. I think this is a very reasonable project. And you could tackle it even without beers. It's a really cool house.
Well, moving on to our second listing, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-story single-family home that sits on a corner lot. This listing boasts a solid structure and a traditional layout with great square footage. While it is sparse on amenities, it does offer gas heat and electric cooling. This 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,833 square foot home is located at 1821 South Main Street in Galena, Kansas, and can be yours for, is this right, $54,000? Is that right?
Yeah, you read that right. $54,000.
Ethan and Elizabeth, the description in the listing is sparse with details and focuses on the potential of this property. What does that signal to you?
I am perplexed about this property, I have to say. I'm fascinated by it. It looks like a solid structure. It is a brick home, and it's got these solid piers. But as far as the style goes, I cannot pinpoint it. But I think it brings up a very interesting point. People often ask me, what is the style of my house? And you have to remember that styles change, things get added on to. Very often things will be renovated, changed decades after the house was built. And so you sometimes get a very eclectic mix as you do in this house.
When you look at these pictures, it seems like some of the rooms and areas were somewhat renovated or updated, while others were maybe more neglected. How common is that for these kinds of listings?
Very common. A lot of times we see these cheap old houses and people come in and they have the opportunity to make some changes. Honestly, it's quite expensive and it's quite an undertaking to do an entire house. And we are not necessarily of the mindset that you have to do that every time, but the changes you should make in the house should advance the house forward in some way so that the next person who takes it on can make small changes and advance it forward. And it looks like people have come in here and made little changes all throughout that have kind of added to that very eclectic mix of styles going on.
Zach, what do you see when you look at this house?
I think
long dramatic pause.
I think the for 54,000, it's a lot of house. It looks fantastic on the outside. Most houses don't have the sort of architectural detail on the outside that are, 500,000. So, I mean, it's definitely got a lot going for it. It's certainly a project. I would bet that this was like a builder's house who didn't have the budget. So they built like big Victorians. So they knew they had like the proportions right, but they were like building it themselves. It seems like a little like model home almost, where they're like, we're doing big windows, but it's tiny. But to make this house of cohesive nose to tail will be a challenge. So you may want to lean into quirkiness and tackle it in stages, but it certainly had a lot done to it. There's different textures, there's different floors, looks like some HVAC was installed. I'm just being a negative Nancy because I want to, sober people up when they're looking at old houses like this. But in general, for that price point, I think you make your money on the purchase. And then if you're willing to make this look old, I think you're going to have a great time because the ceilings are super high. It's going to feel really nice on the inside when you're done.
Well, Ethan and Elizabeth and Zach, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jen, for having us on.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Zach.
See you guys later. Thanks for joining us.
You can follow Cheap Old Houses on Instagram or subscribe to the newsletter by going to cheapoldhouses.com. We're nearly at the end of the show, which means it's time for the Simple Fix.
Hi, Jen. It's Tom Silva. This is my Simple Fix. On a cold winter night, if you have double-hung windows and you're wondering why it's drafty, the first thing you want to check to see if it's locked. When you lock the window, it pushes the bottom sash down tight to the sill, top sash up tight to the header, and that brings the meeting rail together, stopping the drafts.
We'll see you next week on This Old House Radio Hour. Our show is distributed by and co-produced by LAist Studios and APM, American Public Media. This Old House Radio Hour was created and produced by Ember 20. Listen to new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday on your app of choice. You can follow This Old House on all the socials at This Old House, all one word. We'll see you next week.